What was I thinking? Can I just picture you all in your underwear? Would that be okay?
I mean...
I'm gonna stop. I'm Michelle. Thanks for being here. So I'm 20, sitting in the living room with my mom and my stepdad for an emergency family meeting. And I'm thinking, what have they discovered that I have done? Or, fuck, am I adopted? Days before, they asked me to come over that night. They had something so important to talk about that it couldn't wait. I made up some shit about being busy, so they finally agreed to meet me a few nights later and insisted that I not talk to anyone in the family, especially my dad and my sister Kathy. In the next few days, all kinds of shit went through my head. My thoughts wavered between the reasonable and the seemingly absurd. Am I adopted? Had my mom's cancer come back? Had they found out I dabbled in drugs? Was my sister Kathy actually my mother? I mean, I was pretty sure she was 9 years older than me, but maybe that was a lie. No, my sister's not my mom. That's crazy. I must be adopted. I have to be adopted. And my sister Kathy somehow knew the truth. After all, of 3 sisters, I was the one unlike the other 2. I had freckles, my sisters did not. They had dark olive skin, I was a shade lighter. They had beautiful, long, Romanesque noses, I clearly did not. The more I thought about it, the more adoption made sense. I had never seen photos of my mom pregnant with me. In fact, the earliest photo I have of myself is from my baptism at 2 weeks old with my godparents and Father Aldo, the priest who baptized me. And weirder things than adoption had happened in my family. My parents divorced when I was 3, and the priest I just mentioned who baptized me, Father Aldo, well, soon after he gave me my first communion, when I was 7, he left the priesthood and married my mom. Initially, I found that a little strange, but not for long, as he had always been our family priest, what with the performing of sacraments for us and him coming over for dinner on Sundays. As priests and stepdads go, Aldo was the shit. He was open-minded, musical, funny, irreverent, charming, and possibly the most generous and thoughtful person I have ever known. He lit up a room with his big smile and open arms. He greeted friends with snippets of songs or poems. He'd bring roses to the office for his coworkers, hand-delivering them along with serenades, jokes, and conversation. I still believe to this day that my friends came to our house to see him and not me. In fact, I'm pretty sure a couple of boyfriends stayed with me much longer than they should have because they didn't want to break up with him, my stepdad. Long story short, he made people feel good, important, and seen. So there I am, 20 years old, in the living room at the emergency family meeting. My mom and my stepdad sat in their matching tan leather recliners, facing me as I sat on the couch. My mother smoked one of her Virginia Slim cigarettes right there in front of me, something she had never, ever done before. I'm thinking, now this must be bad. We sat in awkward silence for a few minutes. My mom took drag after drag from her cigarette and stared off into the distance. The entire time I'm thinking, let's just get this over with. Would you fucking tell me I'm adopted? Finally, my stepdad, Father Aldo, broke the silence with, Michelle, I don't know how else to say it other than to just say it. I am your biological father. I was stunned. This was not on the list of possibilities I expected to hear. After picking up my jaw from the floor, I realized how truly ecstatic I was. Not only because I wasn't adopted, but because Aldo was my dad. My real dad, my biological father. Holy fuck! Father Aldo was indeed Father Aldo. Finally, things began to make sense. Finally, the fact that I didn't much look like my sisters made sense. Finally, I understood why, when I was a child and he and I were together, he insisted on wearing his black, thick-rimmed glasses. You see, our eyebrows were identically shaped. He didn't want anyone to know. Finally, my resemblance to his family in Italy made sense. And finally, most of all, our deep connection to one another made sense. I jumped up to hug them both, and what I remember most, besides my dad's obvious joy, was the look of relief on my mother's face. I knew then that she had been worried, really worried about how I would take the news. Worried and thinking and keeping this secret for 20 years. The three of us cried. I told them how happy I was. My dad told me how much he loved me and how being my dad was the greatest joy of his life. Ecstatic, but in complete and utter shock, I told them I had to leave. They wanted me to spend the night. And looking back, I understand that, but I was thinking, damn, I have a lot of questions about this. I need to go home, process, and call all my friends to tell them this crazy news.